and you tell it so well. I wish you would sing, I wish you would sing, 'cause we need to hear the story that you're standing up there, and you're so scared that you just stare at the floor. And we're out here, ready to cheer, but you can't hear us anymore. I wish you would sing, I wish you would sing. You clenched your fist and took a risk, but you just missed. Now you carry that shame. Don't believe the lies that well up inside and flood your eyes, telling you that you failed. I wish you would sing, I wish you would sing. Story that only you can tell, and you tell it so well. And the only way the enemy wins is if you close your mouth. There's so much power within if you sing out loud. I wish you would sing, I wish you would sing. We need to hear.
All right, it's time. Welcome to First Ask Joe of 2018. Welcome, everybody. This is your first time hanging out on the live stream. Welcome. It's not a terribly organized thing. If you were here early, then you heard me playing muted music for a good 10 minutes. A little rusty. But I'm excited to be back behind the desk. Had a good couple of weeks off, and I missed you terribly. So I'm glad to get back into this. Those of you here in the live chat, let me know you can see and hear me. And I need some ideas for an intro. So if this is your first time, I do silly intros for every episode. So we're doing a podcast, also shooting video, and then that will go as a podcast and also as a video on YouTube, so you can consume it however you like, unless you're here live, which is what I think the best way to consume it. So if you can be here Tuesdays, 1 p.m. Central for the foreseeable future, I'll be here, and a few of these other weirdos will be here with me. So I say that with love, all of you. Put your hand on your radio and sing along with me. What? I don't know what that means. I need some intro ideas. Somebody said ZZ Top. ZZ Top guitar riff. I don't know if I know any ZZ Top guitar riffs. I mean, I'm sure I do, but I maybe don't realize there's ZZ Top. Oh, y'all missed me too. You're sweet. Okay, let me think of a female voice. Need to schedule a live stream concert. Noah, you're the man. Shoot me an email, so I've got that there. I'll forget it from here. I look like I'm cold? It's a little cold. It actually is kind of cold down here. Josh's classes. Yoda. We see I did Yoda voice, and y'all made Taylor Swift. Come on. What's up, Homestead Collective? We could do. It's a new year. We could do Chipmunk Auld Lang Syne or something. Ooh, Paul Harvey. Good day. Good day. Okay, we'll figure something out. Let me turn the music off. Okay, so let's do. What's up, Rob Nordvik? A whistle intro. Yeah, let's do a whistle intro. Um, I wonder what a octave pitched down whistle would sound like. Let's see. I need to get to the actual answering of your questions. I promise I won't talk long, so we'll get to your questions. I'm just trying to get this intro going. 3-part harmony whistles. Okay, so what's the melody? Like that first line. Hang on, let's see. What's the... I like to do it in the key of the intro music, which is in B. I'm gonna have to use headphones for this. Okay. Alex is here. Long time no see. Okay, so this is gonna be stupid. Here we go. The dumb things that we do. Let's duplicate. Let's get rid of all the plugins because it doesn't need to have a gate. There needs to be no gate on my whistles. I don't know if I can do it. I can't whistle harmonies. I can't do it. But I'm gonna try it. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. We got this. Sorry, it's gating the whistles. You'll hear it in the recording. It's so bad. It's so bad. Let's see. Let's do this. Let's melodyne it real quick. Boink. Boink. And let's do that one. Oh, I'd love to calculate the amount of time we've wasted doing these intros for a silly podcast, but it started years ago where I started off just doing silly accents, and then it just turned into insanity. Okay, Melodyne was a bad idea. We'll just leave it and we'll give them some reverb. Let's do. See, you're learning slight little audio things here. Add bus for selected channels, and then we'll EQ, and we'll reverb it. EQ, and let's do. You can't see this EQ, can you? Just taking some low mids out because that's what you do every time. Room reverb. I've lost all. Anyone who was here, I've lost you now, haven't I? This is a total waste of time, but I just don't care. Let's go. I don't think you can see this plugin. Yeah, you can. I can't read it. Oh, boy. Well, we did it, folks. We made the dumbest intro. This is Ask Joe number 216, the first one of 2018. I don't even know if we stayed in the right key anymore. All right, that's good enough. We got to actually get to something. Let's be somewhat productive here. Is this part loud enough? This is Ask Joe number 216, the first one of 2018. You need a cymbal rise. You're all whistling along. Okay, I'm not doing any more because I've already wasted way too much time. Let me get the recording going here. This is Ask Joe number 216, the first one of 2018. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Ask Joe, the first episode of the new year, 2018, with a really mediocre whistling job of Auld Lang Syne. But if you were here for the live stream of that, then you know how long that took, and took way too long to knock that out. But I'm glad that it is done, and it is finished. And apparently the folks in the chat thought it was creepy, spooky, and they also liked it. So there you go. My name is Joe Gilder. If you are not familiar with me, I run HomeStudioCorner.com. I've run that since 2009. I also run a bunch of other stuff that you can click around there and find out all those juicy details. But the point of today and the point of this episode and this podcast is to answer your questions. I started Ask Joe years ago because I would get questions, and I'd probably get a lot of the same questions, and I'd keep typing out the same responses. And I eventually started answering some of those questions on video, which morphed into this podcast. So if you are into music and audio and recording on any level, this podcast is probably a nice companion for you. So go back through the back catalog of lots of episodes. You can listen in iTunes, or you can listen on YouTube. They're in all sorts of different formats, and get your questions answered. If you want to show up live at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays, that's when we usually do this thing, then you can ask your questions there. Otherwise, I'm guessing most questions that are asked are also questions that other people have, so you'll probably get plenty of answers to your burning questions just through listening to the recording. It's been a good few weeks off, so it's been maybe 3 weeks since the last episode. I took a few weeks off at the end of the year, and it was good. Christmas was good. We stuck around Nashville. I'll tell you more about that in the next Gilder Cam episode, but I did not. The big thing I want to talk about here on the podcast, because I talked about it here probably more than anywhere else, is I did not do a fourth EP in 2017. I did not hit my goal. My goal was to release 4 EPs in 2017. I released 3 and another single, but I did not release that 4th EP. We moved not unexpectedly, but it was unexpected when I set the goal at the beginning of the year to move in November, and then just with end-of-year stuff, and I wrote several songs towards the end of the year. I just hated all but one of them, and so I wasn't going to do an EP of songs I hated, so I did not follow through on my commitment. But see, this is the thing, and I'm going to talk about this more later in an episode of Gilder Cam, but you could chalk that up and say that was a failure. But if it was a failure that had me release what? Let's look at the numbers. That one had 5. That one had 4. That's 9 plus the last EP had 4. That's 13. I released 13 songs in 2017 as a result of this goal. So I didn't release the last 4 or 5, but I released way more than I would have done had I just kind of sat back and waited around for things to happen. So the whole point of setting these goals isn't really so I can hit them and check the box. It's I set goals that force me to do the things that I want to be doing day in and day out. So if I set a goal to release 4 EPs, guess what? That means I'm going to be songwriting and recording and mixing and connecting with other musicians, which are all things that I want to be doing, and the goal gives me an excuse to do them. Does that make sense? So don't be scared of missing your goals and failing completely, because it's not really a failure. It's just it's an answer to a question. If the question is, did I release 4 EPs in 2017? The answer is no. And I don't feel that as any more of a failure than if I'm playing a song in the key of G and I try to play a B minor chord and it doesn't really fit with everything else. It's not a failure. I just tried a chord and it didn't work. Get over it, move on, and do the next thing. So those are my thoughts on failure and setting big goals. I'm a fan of both. Boom. Gary Fox says, if music were the coin of the realm, you still created a massive amount of wealth. I like that you use the word realm, so that's kind of cool. But thank you, Gary. Gary, I know you're gearing up for the RPM challenge in February. I need to join one of these years. I don't know if this one's going to be the one. That'd be interesting, though. I still want to release that 4th EP, and it may happen at the end of this month. I don't know. I'm one of the things I'm doing in 2018 is I've set up some time every week, 2 different times a week, to do some songwriting. And I hope that I stick to that, because I'd love to be writing always versus only writing when I need to put out something. I think there's a better way to get to the good songs. So in I'm sorry, I'm talking. It's time for questions, but get your questions ready. Go ahead and ask them. But for 2017, I only did songwriting when it was time for a new EP. So I would write 5 or 6 songs and then record 4 of them, or I'd write 4 and record 4. And it worked out okay until the last one, when I sat down to write and I didn't like what I wrote and they weren't coming as easily. And it was in that moment, late December, where I was thinking, man, I wish I had been just writing a song a week for the last 12 weeks, and I'd have at least 12 songs to choose from, and more than likely a few that I liked that I could record. So that's one of the thoughts I'm having moving forward. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on what you're doing. Leave a comment on this video later or on the podcast. I'd like to know what kind of stuff you're doing to push yourself creatively in 2018. So with that in mind, let's jump into your questions. Again, these questions, for the last good chunk of time, all these questions have come from folks here live on the live stream. So if you can make it Tuesdays at 2 p.m., we would love, or 1 p.m. Central Time, we'd love to have you. It's a good crew of people, and I like getting to answer questions live. It's super fun. So let's jump in and see if there are any questions here, and I will do my best to answer them. One thing to keep in mind, I'm only answering based on my own experience. So a lot of my answers are going to be fairly subjective, or you may just straight up disagree with me, and that's okay too. One man's opinion. I don't know why I just gave that disclaimer. I hate disclaimers, so forget the last 20 seconds. Matthew Kelly says, what are your thoughts on which music distribution service to choose? DistroKid versus Ditto, does it matter? I've used both, and I currently use DistroKid. Ditto, I'm not loving Ditto right now. I don't want to bash them. I had my stuff. They had a promotion going on with Nimbit, which is where I sell my music directly. When I first signed up for Nimbit, they would put your music on iTunes and Amazon and Spotify. It was a free promotion. Once that year was up, I re-signed up with them, but then DistroKid came along. They actually reached out to me, wanting me to do a video about DistroKid. I never did, but I signed up for DistroKid. It's just way cheaper, and it does the same thing. It gets my music on all the platforms for free. It even does a few extra things that I didn't realize, and you have to buy the little bit upgraded version, but it was like $30 for the year, and I can release as much music as I want. To me, that's just a no-brainer. And then Ditto, they've had some weird stuff with the getting money from them. I logged in and I had a balance. And then I said, hey, I'm now distributing. Essentially said, hey, take these down, because my music was on iTunes from both Ditto and from DistroKid. So I said, hey, let's take down the Ditto. And they took them down, but that also took the money out of my account. So the music wasn't showing up in my account. Neither were the sales that I'd made or the streams money from that. It wasn't tons of money, but it was a decent chunk. And so it was just back and forth to get them to give me the money back. So maybe they're great, but I just feel like their model is not working super well. So I like DistroKid a lot. I think it's distrokid.com. Definitely worth checking out. Why isn't Trade on Napster? I want to hear that song so bad, and it's not on there. I don't know how to get things on Napster, but it's on Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon Music, and I believe there's even one on YouTube. So if you're probably just not looking hard enough. Or you could buy it for 99 cents on joegildermusic.com. Just throwing that out there, but I've got plenty of ways for you to listen to it for free. Oh, no. Thank you, everybody. I didn't see that happening. Something's wrong with the recording. Hold on. The sales that I'd made, or the recording. Hold on. Oops. Neither were the sale, the Ditto. And they took them down, but that also took the money out of my account. So the music wasn't showing up in my account, and they took them down, but that also took the money out of my account. Okay, I'm going to punch that in so the recording works. The video will have this extra spot, but the recording should be fine. So I said, hey, let's take down the Ditto. And they took them down, but that the Ditto. And they took them down, but in doing so, the money that I had made from the albums that they took down disappeared. And it was this big, long ordeal to get it back on there and get my money. So it just wasn't a good experience, but DistroKid has been great so far. I'm sure every system has some problems, but someone was asking why my music isn't on Napster, or specifically the song Trade. I don't know, but it's on lots of different places, so you should be able to find it. Amazon, iTunes, Spotify, all those places where you can listen to music for free, or you can get it at joegildermusic.com. It might be free there. I think it's like $1.99. Anyway, Justin Glotzbach says, are you planning on going to NAMM or Summer NAMM? I'm thinking about trying to make it for the first time. Would love to hear your thoughts. Yes, I'm going to Winter NAMM, which is later this month. I'll be there for like Wednesday to Saturday out in California. Super stoked to go to Anaheim in January. Get away from the cold here in Nashville for a bit. It's going to be fun. Looking forward to seeing Graham Cochran and Warren Hewitt and all my other audio blogger buddies, hang out with the PreSonus folks. It's fun. I don't really go there to see a lot of the gear. I mean, I look at some of it, but I mostly go there to kind of meet people and hang out with people or whatnot. So, yes, I'm going to Winter NAMM, and I'll go to Summer NAMM as well, which is here in Nashville, which is super easy. And yeah, so I think it's a fun thing to go to. It's not. I forget. I think the California one might be open to the public on one of the days. It's just huge, huge conference. Tons and tons of people. Tons and tons of equipment. It's very loud. I get overwhelmed after a while. It's just so much happening. But there's lots of cool stuff to find too. I like to meet the smaller manufacturers like this. At Summer NAMM, I met a guy from Classic Audio Effects, which is just husband and wife. They make these cool little guitar pedals. And it was fun to play around with those. So I'm thinking as I go to NAMM, my focus is going to be on finding and checking out stuff that will help me create more music. Give me new tools for creativity in 2018. That means I'm not that interested in the latest EQ plugin or really even the latest preamp or compressor. I'm more interested in, like, is there a new guitar pedal or a new something that's interesting and musical? That's just where my heart is, I think. I love using a good plugin as much as the next guy, but a plugin never like makes me want to write a song like picking up a guitar does. So that's where I'm at with that. How about a meetup at NAMM? I am open to it. I've got an email going out the week before NAMM, and y'all can reply to that, or maybe I'll post some stuff on the social media and see if we can get some sort of meetup happening either at NAMM or maybe somewhere else outside of NAMM. It seems like at NAMM on the floor on one of the days when most people will be there would be good. I am coming home on Saturday. I've got to get back home before Sunday, so I won't be there for the Saturday, but I'll be there for Thursday through Friday. No. Yes. I'll be there Thursday. I'll be there Thursday and Friday. That's it. Oh, well. I'll be there 2 days, which is probably enough. Gary Fox says, tell us about the Ronin weekend thing. Tim Alexander is really trying to sell me on going. Someday I may go, but I don't have the time in my personal life right now. Gary, you should go. I'm kidding. Do what you want. It would be great to meet you at some point, though. I've met Tim. And anyway, so I'm doing, just announced this, Ronin Chris Murphy, who's a really great guy. I've done a few things with him in the past. He lives out in California, has worked on some pretty awesome major artists that you've probably heard of. But he's doing a mountain recording retreat in May in West Virginia, and he asked if I would come do a couple of presentations and hang out for the week. So it's some sort of mountain retreat with golf, and we'll have workshops and listening parties, and I'll bring a guitar. Maybe we'll play some music, but it's going to be apparently super laid back. It's like one of those all-inclusive resort things. So I'm excited to go. It's like a 9-hour drive for me, so it should be good. But you can check that out at, I think it's recordingretreat.com. And if you use the coupon code, all caps, corner18, as in home studio corner18, you get $125 off. So they may be sold out. Honestly, I don't really know. Peter says, do you ever compose music all in the box? Yeah. Just recently on my EP Fighter, almost all those songs I wrote in the box by putting together like a beatbox, sort of a loop with background vocals, and then writing the music to that. So if you go look on my YouTube channel under playlists, and there's one about songwriting. What do I call it? I think it's called Songwriting Corner. And go look at the songs from that. Songs like Listen, Fighter, and a couple more off of the most recent ones. And you'll see that's me writing those songs in that video, which is really cool to do. I'll do the video and post it, and then some of those songs never make it onto a project, and then some turn into my favorite songs ever, like the song Fighter is my favorite song I've ever written thus far. And it's cool to go back and see those videos where like that song was born and came to life. I'm glad I got some of those caught on camera. Coming to India anytime soon? No, but I'm open if there's some sort of opportunity. I'd love to go. I imagine I'll go to Europe at some point, do something with Ian Shepherd. I'd love to get up to Sweden and Norway because it seems like I have tons of people up there. Anyway, but no, I have no current plans to leave the country. Chris Janton says, main stage plus Studio One, how do you do it? I do it analog. I don't have any MIDI going on. So you see the keyboard behind me, and then I use this laptop. And so the keyboard, and then I use a USB audio interface from PreSonus. So the keyboard plugs into the audio interface, MIDI output cable, a MIDI cable from the keyboard into the audio interface. That triggers main stage on the laptop. And then the output of the interface, just the 1/4-inch out, I run into my mixer and record that in. Just like it's a standalone analog keyboard, that's how I treat it. I don't record MIDI notes. I literally perform it, and then I record it just like real life. Yes, it would make life easier if I had it all MIDI'd into Studio One and back out, but I didn't want to, and I don't see any reason to. I mean, I see reasons to, but I've not felt the need to do that. I like performing it in, just like I play guitar. I don't play MIDI guitar, I play real guitar. Chris says, am I crazy for thinking my kick drum recordings sound better without any compression? I record at the sound hole, duplicate it, and put sub-kick EQ on the copy and the EQ on the original to taste. Any thoughts? Chris, yeah, if it sounds good, it sounds good. I don't compress my kick drums by default. Probably half the time I do if I'm trying to get a different sound out of it. But if it sounds good as is, I say go with it. Johnny, I'm so sorry to hear that. Says his wife in a car accident. Hope she's okay. Let us know. So yeah, Chris, I'd say, dude, stick with, if it sounds good, it sounds good. I mean, and the other thing is, doesn't really matter what it sounds like by itself. Is it working in the mix, yes or no? And if the answer is yes, just keep moving, man. Keep going. Don't look back. I think when you hear the advice to trust your ears, sometimes it's hard to know what that means. But the first thing is you got to know what a good kick drum sounds like. And that way you can know if you got there. But then it's also subjective. What one person might like a really clicky, thin kick drum. Another person might like it with tons and tons of low end. I tend to like it probably somewhere in the middle. But you may have a different preference. So what I think is the best kick drum sound ever, you might think of something else. And those things are okay too. if you don't have a lot of experience, you might want to listen to people who have more experience and maybe check your preferences against theirs, because you may just have preferences that don't match up with the rest of the world. But I do think we have to start to own, like, what do we like? And if you like it, kind of run with it and see how that works. What is budget audio interface? Any audio interface that's cheap on the price tag. I don't know what you mean by what is a budget one. There's plenty. I like PreSonus stuff. A lot of people like Focusrite stuff. And then, I mean, they're all pretty inexpensive. And I think you can make great recordings with any of them. So I would just pick one that has the right inputs and outputs that you want. Pick one you think you might like. Pick one a friend of yours has that you like, and just go. I think we spend too much time debating it. Just get it and go. What audio interface do you use on your laptop for analog recording? It's an old Audio Box 44 VSL, I believe. The one with 4 mic ends and a bunch of 1/4-inch jacks on the back. What do you know about Brule A to D and D to A? Nothing. Never heard of it. I'm not a big fan of external, additional, high-end converters, mainly because I mostly talk to home studio people, and if you're making recordings and mixes that don't sound great, I guarantee it's not because you don't have great converters. Better converters are not going to give you much of an improvement at all. That's my opinion. If you're not good, it's probably because you're not good, not because your gear's not good. You can always improve things, and I would say improve things like microphones and better preamps and even better plugins before I would say improve your converters. And then even then, I might not say improve your converters. Whatever you have right now, unless it's bottom of the barrel cheap, I say it's probably plenty accurate and way more accurate than any analog console has ever been. So just go make some music. That's what I think. Any tips on calculating how much to raise your mix rates by? Raise them and then just pick a number arbitrarily, raise them, and then see if people still pay you. If they do, then your rates are good. You could probably raise them again. If they don't, then you have reached the cap of what people right now are willing to pay for, which either means you need to get better, or you need to do a better job of selling it, or you need to find different people who are more willing to pay those new rates. Paul Lucas says, I just got Studio One. Are you going to be doing any more videos on it? I mean, every video I do has Studio One. As far as a series of videos on Studio One, probably not. But I've got I did 100 of them. It's on version 2, but a lot of the concepts still apply, so definitely go check that out. Rob Nordvik says, my band has been recording multi-tracks of our live performances. Any different techniques I should be using in mixing live tracks rather than studio tracks? I mean, in some ways it's the same, but one big difference is live tracks, you've got bleed. So if you compress the lead vocal and use like a lot of compression like you might want to do in a normal mix, you're going to hear more drums and more guitar and more bass and more background vocals and more crowd noise because you're turning up the noise floor of that microphone performance. So when I'm mixing live stuff, I tend to not use much, if any, compression on the individual tracks and use more on the buses or just on the mix bus to just glue everything together. But once you start heavily compressing individual things, it can create more problems. Or it could make it sound amazing, and you just live with the bleed. The great thing about live recordings is once you kind of embrace this is live and is not going to be perfect and pristine, you can kind of just do whatever sounds good, and just all the mess in the middle from the bleed is just a part of it and what gives it character. So those are the ways I would think about it. And Chris says expanders and gates are your friend with live tracks. That's true. I don't usually mess with them too much. If it was a drum kit with a bunch of mics on it, I might do that a little bit. But otherwise, I try to use the bleed just as a part of the vibe for what I'm mixing. That said, I don't mix a ton of live stuff, so I very well could change my mind on that if I mixed a full like live album or something. Cesar says, on compressing on the way in, is there still an advantage on using plugins on the way in when outboard compression is not available? I don't see any reason for that. You could put a plugin on just to hear it without it actually going into the audio itself. I just don't see much benefit there. You could just do it. You could just as well do it after the fact, and you don't risk messing it up if you did too much compression on the way in. So no, I don't I don't see any benefit to that. Other than it's a really dynamic singer and they would perform better if they had some compression on the vocal that they're listening to. And that maybe makes sense. Even then, though, you could probably put a compressor on there and monitor off the compressor without it actually printing to the actual recorded audio. Truckee says, I see that you're using the ADL 600 and 700 preamps in your studio. PreSonus no longer sells them. Can you explain what they provide beyond the X-Max Class A preamps in the studio live? Okay, so kind of comparison of like a higher-end tube preamp to a stock preamp on an audio interface. Can you make a great recording on a stock preamp? Absolutely. A nicer preamp just has more magic to it. If you are a Truckee, I think you're a guitar guy. Like you could play guitar amps, for example. You play through a better amp, it generally just has a better feel to it. A cheap $100 amp versus a $2,000 really nice hand-wired tube amp probably is going to have a feel that makes you perform better. So that's one part of it. Secondly, these tube preamps just have a little more character to them. They're a little warmer, but they're not beefy like a Universal Audio preamp. They still have some top end to them, but they just have a nice. When I record through them, the tracks sound good. When I record through the stock preamps, the tracks still sound good, but they don't have quite that extra oomph that I get sometimes out of the nicer preamps. It's one of those things that I'm sure is frustrating to listen to somebody explain, and I get that, but there's a level of you just gotta hear it, and that's hard to explain. And I wish it wasn't that way, but it's kind of like if you like acoustic guitar, a cheaper guitar versus a really nice one. You could probably make great recordings with either, but there's something about the nicer one that just sounds better overall. That's kind of what I get. The fact that I use these does not mean that the stock preamps are bad. It's just different. One's better, but the first isn't bad to begin with. UAD plugins are better than Waves? No, I don't think any of them are necessarily better. Some would say that. I don't use either, so I'm really the wrong person to ask. You might be new TSWA to Home Studio Corner. I mix almost exclusively with stock plugins in Studio One. I don't think the plugins make as big of a difference as a lot of people would have you think, although I'm open to trying new plugins this year and seeing what happens. But yeah, I just don't think it makes that big of a difference. Sam Kanak is finally here. Welcome, brother. All right, Johnny, see you later, brother. Tell your wife, hope she feels better. Johnny Lipsham's wife was in a car accident. She's fine, not hurt, but she's shaken up. So that stinks. My wife had a wreck a few months ago. It's not fun. Broncano Mix says, do you ever mix with open back headphones? Yeah. These right here, the Sennheiser HD 650s, are open back headphones. They're fabulous. I mix on them, not exclusively, but especially if I'm not trusting my room or if I'm in a new space like I am now, I'll spend a lot of time on those because they're not affected by the sound of my room, whereas my speakers are. So if I'm working on a mix and maybe I'm not sure if the low end is right, I'll listen on there, maybe listen to a few references on those headphones and then flip back to speakers. But yeah, I do use them quite a bit. And you can absolutely get a good mix on headphones. It sometimes can be more tricky, but it's certainly doable. Gary Fox says, my goal for this year is to have more dimension and space to my songs, that elusive 3D versus 2D sound. It's hard to describe, but I think you know what I mean. It's not just slapping reverb on. Any tips? I don't really know, Gary. When people talk about, I want more depth than just width and height to my mix, I never know what they're talking about. You say it's more than just slapping reverb on it. I think a lot of it probably is slapping reverb on it, like spring reverbs on the guitars. I think it's kind of how you play, like guitars that have like reverb and delay on them that just create this ambient vibe. I think to me, and then certain pads, keyboard pads that make it feel bigger and wider and deeper. I think it's the parts that you record more than it is any sort of a mix thing. Like if I pull up raw tracks and they don't already have that 3D sound just baked into the tracks, I'm not really probably going to get that from the way that I mix it. It kind of has to be baked in. And Gary, knowing that you've got, knowing that you're like a guitar guy, it's probably going to have to do with effects and things that you use on the guitars and the parts that you're playing. The other option is maybe, this is more kind of just obvious, but maybe don't mic everything so close and capture some rooms, or mic the guitar, but then also, or mic the amp and then put a mic across the room and capture that and see if that creates some sort of a vibe that you're not going to get with like short reverbs and things like that. But yeah, I don't. I just don't listen to music that way. I don't listen to it and think, oh, it's got this depth. I'm thinking, okay, I'm either hearing room sound or I'm hearing manufactured fake room sound, or I'm hearing delay, or I'm hearing some other effect. Like it's really that simple. I'm hearing something as it was recorded, or I'm hearing something that was added after the fact. Those are the only two options. And if it as it was recorded, then it's something in the way they place the microphone and set up whatever they're recording in the room itself, and the other is a handful of plugins. There's just not that many options to choose from. So yeah. Ben Holmes says, what's up, Ben? I'm nearly finished recording songs for my next album. I'm now thinking about how it will go together. Do you have any thoughts on picking the running order for an album? Yeah, I have a few. It's definitely an art, and in some ways it doesn't matter because people are going to go to the songs they like the most. And if they listen all the way through, then they'll listen all the way through, and it doesn't really matter the order. That said, you can make it a little more pleasant. Sometimes lyrically will dictate that. If like my album Better This Way, it really felt like there was really only one order I could use. And so I just, that was the order of the album. But for others, it's more, I want the first song to grab them and bring them in. So I'll put one of my favorites up front, and then try to just kind of take them along for a ride through the songs. A couple things to keep in mind: putting some quick tempo together and then putting some slower songs together to kind of let it kind of ebb and flow energy-wise without being too abrupt. Also, thinking about the keys to the songs is interesting. I learned that from when I'm leading music, like at church. We try as much as we can to, like, if I've got 3 songs in the key of E, it's nice to put them all together so you can kind of just morph from one song to the next and maintain this vibe. If you're switching from, a song that's in E to a song that's in B flat, there's not going to be a real easy way to make that transition smooth. So maybe you change the order so that you're not having to do that. Another kind of rule there is if you're going to change keys, try to move up. So if we have got a song in D and a song in E, I'll tend to want to put the song in D first so that it moves up to E next. That sometimes feels better. I don't know if that's true, but that's just kind of something I've tried a lot. And we're almost out of time. Back to Gary talking about depth in 3D. He says, I think it's all about getting it better and better at getting it right at the source. Kind of that I'll know it when I hear it vibe. And I think that's true, and that's what makes it so frustrating to talk about and frustrating in the studio, because it might take you a day to find that sound you're looking for, but it's definitely worth putting in that effort for sure. I gotta go. See ya. It's time for the after party. David, no, I haven't. Sorry. It's been crazy around here. I do need to go. I will write that down. Go to P.O. Box. I'll get that done. Rob, why don't you go ahead and ask him here, because I'm probably going to forget to go look for whatever questions you're talking about now. Adam, if you track through the K system, I'll stay and answer a few questions just in case you're wondering what's happening. If you track through the K system metering, what level do you choose for when recording? Okay, Adam, I never shoot for a certain level. I hate that whole concept because it just doesn't matter. I try to hit, when I'm recording something, I'm going check, check, check. I just want to make sure that at the loudest thing that I'm singing, it's not peaking and it's not getting close to clipping. That's it. There's literally, I do not give it any other thought. And then when I'm mixing, if it's too loud or too quiet, I'll adjust the volume there. It will not change the tone one iota. Miguel, how do you recommend setting up the studio live to get rid of latency but still hear the session when tracking the musicians? It's really easy, Miguel. You just, anything that's a microphone, you listen to that directly off the board. You don't listen through Studio One, and then you just listen to everything else playing back from Studio One. So I have Studio One comes down channels 1 and 2 on my mixer, That's everything coming out of Studio One, and then all the microphones are everything else. So, like, if I had headphones on, I could hear this microphone on the board, and then I would hear everything else. Like the music for this podcast is playing back. That's literally it. When you have a mixer, the thing in Studio One, if you can see my screen, you don't need to do this. So I click the monitor button, and you can hear the latency on my voice, right? Because you're hearing my voice through the mixer. You're also hearing it through Studio One, and it has latency. Now, you may think that latency is really, really bad. It is, because I never have to worry about latency because I'm always listening off the board. So I can leave my buffer at something fairly large and just keep it there instead of having to play that latency up and down game. However, if I mute my mic on the board and then listen through Studio One, now it's really annoying, and I can hear this slapback in the room from the speakers. So I would need to go adjust my buffer. I can't even talk. I would need to go adjust my buffer setting so that latency is down and small. That's that buffer game that we talk about, and why I think mixers are so great, because I can just listen directly off the board, and then I can listen to the recording as it's coming down. Not my voice, but everything else in the session just gets played through the mixer. Super, super, super easy. It's funny. It takes a while to explain, but it's super simple. What webcam do you use? It's one of those Logitech C... I don't remember. It was like $100 maybe. Logitech C9 something maybe. It does in 1080. It's okay. It's not great, but it's fine. It's fine for this. Been telling clients I have New Year rates, but haven't decided still, so that helps. Okay. Do you have Studio One return back on your tape fader, or do you not have to scarify your faders? I just use channels 1 and 2. That's just what I do. 1 and 2 is my DAW. I've done the tape return, but tape return for me is my iTunes. I'd rather have iTunes come down one fader and Studio One come down another, so I can switch between the two for referencing. So yeah, I give up channels 1 and 2, so my kick drum, if I'm doing a full session, would be on channel 3. And I don't mind. That's fine. All right, Rob, I'm going back to catch your question. I'm trying to move my recording mixing studio out of a multi-use small bedroom into my garage, which is currently my band's rehearsal studio. There's a steel garage door at one end. Otherwise, it's essentially square with some cabinets. The floor is carpeted. What do you recommend as far as placement of the desk? I would try to place it on the smallest wall. If it is square, then it really doesn't matter. And then as far as vocal mic recording, just place it places and see which one sounds best. I hate that answer, but I can't answer that for you. Just set them up and see what works. It's as much about functionality as it is about music. If it is square, it's a bad room anyway. So it doesn't really matter where you set it up. You're going to have issues. You definitely need treatment, though. And placing the desk, just if there is a slightly smaller wall, that's technically where you should place it. But even in my room, I placed it where I thought it would work best. And then I will try to treat around that. That just seems to make more sense to me. And Bill, you were asking if the VIP challenge is to include writing the song. No, it's not. I don't know where people kept getting that idea, but no, the idea is to record and mix a song in an hour. There's no way you could write a song and, well, you could, but that's certainly not the challenge. That would be too much. For sure. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Ask Joe, the first episode of the new year, 2018, with a really mediocre whistling job of all. And so I wasn't going to do an EP of songs I hated. Put your music, boom. Thoughts on failure and setting big goals? I'm a fan of both. Boom. This is Ask Joe number 216, the first one of 2018. That was just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Sometimes feels better. I don't know if that's true, but that's just kind of something I've tried a lot. I gotta go. See ya. right, those levels feel good. Any other questions I might have missed? 19 by 20. Yeah, so Rob, it's pretty square, and you'll just have to deal with it. I'd probably put it on the 19 the 19-foot wall, but it's not going to matter too much. Have you done any measurements on your new space? Nope. What is your podcast intro music song? It's from my latest EP. It's the song called... Hold on, let's find out. It's this one, Running Around.
It's a losing game. The outcome's always the same.
Anyway, when recording electric guitar, what do you use the most, 11 rack or miking? Lately, it's been miking. I got that deluxe reverb amp that I really like. Just takes pedals really well, sounds great. I like playing through an amp. So yeah, but previous project, it was all 11 rack. So maybe a combination on the future stuff. Yeah, or if I need to be quiet, I'll use 11 rack just for volume reasons. You know what? My voice is tired. I feel like I've got somewhere I gotta be. I need to go. Oh, I gotta write a song. Try to write a song this afternoon. We'll see how that goes. Wish me luck. But yeah. I'll see you next week. Come hang out with me again next week. Tuesdays, 1 p.m. Later.